Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Sarah Allen, and you're on A Little Bit of Magic. And today, September 14th, 2025, I was hoping to share with you a promise I had made 18 years ago, a very special promise to a student and a very exciting opportunity. And unfortunately, on this day today, I had to break that promise. I want to share with you this tragic and also inspirational story. You may or may not know that before I was a doctor of Chinese medicine, I was a teacher. I was a teacher for over 15 years. I taught students from all over the world. I taught English as a second language and bilingual education. A large part of my career was in Wisconsin, and I also taught overseas. But during my time in Wisconsin, I had a wonderful student. I loved my job. I loved working with kids from all over. I loved working with families from different parts of the world and learning languages and about different cultures and places and visiting. I visited a lot of my students over the years. And so one of my students is from Nepal. And I told him at the time, he was in high school, and I said, I love the idea of trekking through the Himalayas. That is a dream of mine. And I hope that one day to go there. And he said, Miss Allen, if I go back to Nepal, you have to come visit me. And I said, I am going to do that. And I will not disclose his name or his location to protect his safety. Otherwise, I would. But we have kept in contact all of these years. And that's the most beautiful thing about being a teacher, is the impact and the relationships you make with students. We've kept in contact. And last spring, we decided, I said, hey, I have the means to come. I can take off work. I can do this. And he was back. He had been traveling. He'd been back in Nepal. And he said he was there. So I was going to come to Nepal in October and spend 3 weeks. We were talking about riding elephants in the jungle, and I was going to do a trek through the Himalayas. I was going to help him teach. I was going to be a guest teacher because now he is a teacher. I was going to visit the monastery where my friend Geshe Lundap Jimpa used to live in Pokhara. I was so looking forward to this adventure. And then things changed. In early September, my student reached out and told me that the government was shutting down major media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And this is how we were communicating. So he was telling me we needed to find a different way to communicate. And that gave me pause. I thought, that doesn't sound good. So this is how it started. There is a lot of alleged corruption, nepotism, politicians using taxpayer money to fund their own opulent materialistic purchases and trips, and things are not happening. Aid is not being utilized the way it should be to help the people. And people are rightly upset about it. And we're making it known publicly on platforms like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. And so the government shut those platforms down. Over 26 media platforms and websites were banned in Nepal for a short time recently in September. And then there was a movement that was started. A movement was started called Gen Z. And you probably have heard the term Generation Z. Generation Z encompasses youth ages 13 to 28. And Gen Z is a movement led by a young man named Sudan Gurung, who said that he would sacrifice his life for his country. And he utilized WhatsApp as a means of communication in developing this movement of youth, of people ages 13 to 28. And they began peacefully protesting after the bans of these media platforms, that they were not able to execute freedom of speech. And the protests, as you can see here, are very peaceful. My student reported that it was almost playful and light, and they were playing games while they were protesting. There was no violence whatsoever. But then the government didn't like that people were protesting and allegedly commanded police to shoot these youth. And my student said he was teaching that day. This started on September 8th, and there was a young 14-year-old boy walking home from school wearing a uniform, carrying his books, and he was shot by the police, and he wasn't even part of the protests. And my student said that one of his students while he was teaching, was reporting this incident. And he said, my student said his heart just sank and he felt so sick. And he imagined that young teenage boy going home to his family, that his family was waiting for him, ready to make dinner. And, he never came home. And it's just so the innocence lost. And how, this led to not just one shooting, but over 17 young people were killed by the police. And my students said that many of deaths have not even been reported, that there have been many, many more, countless. Over 72 people have now been killed that have been reported to be killed in these protests. So after that incident of that boy being shot and other young people being murdered, the protests escalated. So far, over 72 people, at least 72 people have been reported to be killed in the protests. Though my student said there's many, many more. He claims that, a lot of this news is not being released or being reported on in mainstream news, even like BBC. It's just minimally covered. A lot of the information he's finding, the best information, is done by locals and reported on TikTok. And within 24 hours, a lot happened. Many buildings were burned. My student said just around him, over 20 structures in his neighborhood have been burned. Major government buildings have been burned. The Parliament, which is a building in like the White House that's been standing over 300 years, was burned. The palace, Singha Durbar, where the Prime Minister office was, that was burned. The Supreme Court was burned. There were luxurious hotels like the Hyatt and the Hilton owned by government officials that were burned. Media office was burned. Apart from that, there was so much physical damage to buildings, government buildings, shopping malls, people's homes that were attacked and burned. The president's residence was burned. The former prime minister's residence was burned. Administrative offices were burned. And this had a grave effect on all of Nepal. My student reported that he no longer has his documents proving that he is a Nepalese citizen. So people's citizenship records, that things are stored not electronically there yet. It's all physically stored in files, and those files were burned. So right now, he is not able to prove that he's a citizen. He is not able to renew his passport. He just bought a new motorbike, and that title for that bike is not there. He's not able to get his license plates. Every person that owns a home that has the deed to their home, that has been burned. And he reports that this will set Nepal back over 50 years at least, and to repair and the damage. But what is inspiring is that the youth have taken control and they have started the Gen Z movement. The former Prime Minister, K.P. Sharma Oli, tried to flee to Dubai, and they shut down the Kathmandu International Airport, so these government officials could not leave. But instead, they took him by helicopter and got out of there. Oh, and a prison burned. A prison in Pokhara that had 13,000 prisoners burned, and there's prisoners all over on the loose. But the Gen Z movement negotiated. They were able to convince the government to let them vote in a new interim prime minister, and her name is Sushila Karki. She is the first female prime minister for Nepal. She has agreed to serve for 6 months while a new one is elected. And it amazes me that this movement of youth was able to basically take control of the government and to institute a new government within 24 hours. And now the protests have stopped. And in the meantime, also buildings, shopping malls, all this stuff was burned. There's so much loss. My student reports that probably Nepal is set back at least 50 years, and it will take maybe several years to get some of the documents. He won't be able to leave the country if he wants to. So, my student said through all of this, he feels very positive and hopeful for a better Nepal. He's always been that way, no matter what, get life could not get him down. And I see it now. And he was telling me how Nepal is rebuilding and people are coming together, as you often see in times of tragedy in wherever in the world, people coming together to help one another. And the hope that this Gen Z, which has such benign goals and aspirations, is working so hard and so swiftly and so effectively to reinstate a more just government. It's really inspiring. So part of me, that brings me to my trip. Part of me, I really would like to, I always dreamt of being a journalist overseas, and I could see myself living in a cave somewhere or doing a very tumultuous, slightly dangerous situation as a correspondent. And I'd like to be there to see this history in the making. The other part of me realizes the danger in doing so, or said it is not a good time to be there. Things are very unstable, even though they're peaceful. I tried to get my ticket back from Air India, and they said, no, we will not reimburse your money because Nepal is now, there's no violence right now. That's over. But truthfully, the government officials that have been ousted and have left would like to regain their power, and they may try to do so. And if so, violence could return. It could be even worse than before. So there is a lot unknown. And there's a travel advisory for Americans not to go to Nepal. And it also states that if there were problems for a tourist, that the government might not be able to be of assistance, which is pretty significant. So right now, my plan is to unfortunately not go and to hold off on this promise when things are stable. So today, I'm wearing my kata scarf. This is a symbol of peace, blessings, gratitude. It was blessed by the Dalai Lama, given to me by my friend Maureen, who is Burmese. And it was also blessed by Geshe Lundep Jinpa, my friend who is a Tibetan Buddhist monk, and it means a lot to me. So I'm wearing it today in honor of my student and of Nepal. It's wonderful that my student and I have been talking every day and will continue to talk. And he is trying to get in communication with his student who is part of the Gen Z movement, who has probably witnessed or experienced or is even in more the know of what's happening politically. So I'm hoping to do an interview with her and get more information to you in the coming days, and maybe even showing you more photos before and after what's happening on the ground. This is a story that's not over by any means. Thank you for joining me today. It was a true honor to bring you this story. I am privy to information that most folks aren't, and this story is underreported, undervalued, and I feel the world should know about it. So again, please share it, subscribe. There will be more to come from me about this, and I hope and pray that the violence is coming to an end and that there will be a path forward of peace and hope and prosperity for Nepal and my student and the Nepalese people. Thank you. I'm Dr. Sarah Allen, and you're on A Little Bit of Magic.